Hi guys, this is a lesson on the indirect statement. It's quite complicated and there's lots of different bits and pieces that you have to use as a part of it. So just bear with, and if you have any questions, then make sure you comment on the video. Okay, so in English, these are two different examples of statements. So this first one here, the king is dead, is a direct statement because you're directly hearing it. You can tell that from the quotation marks. The second one, this one, is an indirect statement because you're being told indirectly what someone else said. So the messenger said that the king was dead. That information is being indirectly reported to you. Now, in English, we use the verb said or announced or shouted. Then we use the word that, and then we report the information that someone said. In Latin, it's done a bit differently. So when we look at a Latin indirect statement, we have to remember to transform it into something that will look a bit like this one. Okay, so instead of the way we say indirect statements, this is how they're formed in Latin. So they start with a verb, so something like he says, they announce, we report. So in that case, it's the same in English. And then it's followed by an accusative and then an infinitive, okay? So in English, this would sort of be like saying, he says the king to be killed or something like that, which obviously sounds really weird in English, but that's the way that they're constructed in Latin, and it's the way all indirect statements are constructed. Sometimes the indirect statement is called the accusative infinitive construction because it always consists of your verb followed by your accusative followed by your infinitive. Okay, so let's look at a very straightforward one here. By the way, all this stuff is also on page 90 of your John Taylor textbook. He says a lot of stuff, so I'm just picking out the key things here. But this is one of the example sentences that he has. So we've got nuntius dicit navem apropinquare. So you've got your verb, he says, in this case it's the messenger says. You've got your accusative, the ship, and then you've got your infinitive, to approach. So this then becomes an indirect statement. Now in English, we're not going to say the messenger says the ship to approach because that would sound weird. So instead, we translate it into a normal English indirect statement. So the messenger says that the ship and then is approaching. So the first thing that we've done is we've inserted the word that here in English so that it makes sense. And we've also translated this infinitive like a normal verb rather than as an infinitive, also so that it makes sense. The final little rule break is that this accusative, even though it's accusative, we've translated as if it's nominative. The messenger says that the ship is approaching. So the ship there is doing the action even though it's accusative, which obviously breaks all the rules that I've ever taught you. But unfortunately, that's the way the indirect statement works. For some reason, the accusative becomes the subject of the clause. Okay, so have a look at this one. This is another indirect statement. Rex dicit servos laborare. So you have the king just as a normal nominative. Then you've got your verb speaks or says. Then you've got your accusative. This time it's an accusative plural, the slaves. And then you've got your infinitive, to work. Now, have a little think about this one yourselves. See if you can think of how you might translate this into nice English. So remember to insert the that right here. Remember to translate the infinitive as a normal verb. And remember that this little accusative here becomes the subject. If you want to pause it, have a think about how you might translate this, and then I'll answer it myself and you can check. Okay, so the translation of this one is the king says that the slaves, don't forget they're plural, are working. Okay. For now, just to let you know, I'm just putting everything in the present tense. So all these verbs here are present tense. The infinitive is present tense. We actually haven't met any other tenses of the infinitive yet. So if the idea that the infinitive can have a tense is freaking you out a little bit, don't worry about that. We're just translating everything in the present for the sake of keeping things simple for now. Okay, so to summarise, this is the kind of key order of things that you need to follow when you're translating an indirect statement. So find your verb, then you need to insert the English word that, otherwise it won't make sense. Then you need to translate your accusative as if it's a nominative, so as the subject. And then you translate your infinitive, but not as to do something, translate it as a normal verb. So on page 91 of the John Taylor textbook, there is exercise 9.17. I want you to have a go at that now. Now what I'll do is, I'll write out the Latin for you here, and then if you pause the video and just have a go at each one, please don't cheat, there's no point. Just have a go at each one, and then once you've had a go at translating it, you can press play again, and then you'll be able to figure out whether you've got the right answer. Okay, so number 1, senex dicit liberos timere. Think about where the verb is. Remember to insert that. Translate the accusative as the doer. Translate the infinitive as a normal verb. Just have a go now. Pause the video and then you can reveal the answer afterwards. Okay, so the answer is, the old man says that the children are afraid. Okay. If you've made any mistakes, again, if you're confused as to why you've made those mistakes, you're not sure why you got it wrong, just comment on the video. You can always send me a message on Skype or through my email. Okay, let's have a go at number 2. Okay, this one's a little bit trickier because it's a question and because things aren't quite in the same order as they were before. So our verb of speaking, you speak in this case, is at the end of the sentence. And the infinitive is a very irregular but also very common infinitive. So think about what that might mean. Pause the video and I'll reveal the answer afterwards. Okay, so this one translates to why are you saying, or do you say would be fine, because that's the question there. Remember that. And then you've got an awful lot of accusatives here, so think about what would make most sense. Hunk, remember, means this, so that this slave, hunk servum. Esse, you need to translate as a normal verb, so is stupid. Okay. Okay, number 3. Someone's saying something there. There's some accusatives here. There's an infinitive here. Have a go at that one. Pause the video and then I'll reveal the answer. Okay, so the translation of this one is the messenger says. So that's that first line there. Then insert your that, because then you've got your accusatives. Our soldiers. And then pugnare, you need to translate as a normal verb. Nunc bene means now well. So our soldiers now fight, or are fighting would be fine. Well. Okay. Okay, number 4. We've got a plural verb here. We've still got an accusative, we've still got an infinitive. So have a go at it, pause the video, and then I'll reveal afterwards. Okay, so the answer to this one is the boys, watch out for that plural there, say that. Now sneakily here, you've got the word ilum, which also means that. So you have to say that twice. You've already inserted the that for the indirect statement, but then you also need to translate the word ilum as well. So the boys say that, and the accusative food, essay as a normal verb, is the best, or is very good, would be fine. Okay, final one, number 5. I'm not going to tell you anything now. Have a go at this, pause it, see if you can work out what's going on. In fact, I will say one thing, there's something weird about that infinitive, so think about what that might be. Right, so the answer to this one is, the woman says that, okay, and then Kenam, the dinner, and then your infinitive. Now this infinitive doesn't end in RE, it ends in RI, so it's passive, okay? But the rule still stands, we still have to translate it as a normal verb, so there's no to be somethinged, you just translate it as if it was a normal present tense verb. So the woman says that the dinner is prepared, or is being prepared would be fine as well, by the slaves at service now. Okay, so he's snuck in a little passive infinitive there. This is why we've learned the passive infinitive recently, because then it can be used as part of an indirect statement. Okay. Any questions? Just let me know, boys.